Hello. Nice to see you. To see you. Nice. Oops. With my nice flowery background. Just make sure it's working properly. Yes. I have like a proper screen behind me. Oh, destroys the illusion. Try to be professional and then you go and move the camera. Nice to see you. To see you. Nice. So welcome. I always like to do some silence at the beginning of my talks. I'll just do all the usual stuff, tell you about how it works. So I normally do about silence for 5, 10, 15 minutes beforehand. If you want to ask questions, then you do that through Skype. And my Skype address is Lisa Cairns 12. That's Lisa Cairns 12. And you can ask questions by writing or you can call in, either one. Make sure you have a headset though with a microphone so it's good sound for everybody. What else? Yeah, I do these talks every Friday and Wednesday and Sunday at 6 p.m. French time. Always check on my website. If you want to come to any events, I'm doing talks in Berlin this coming weekend, so you're welcome to join that. And I also have a retreat in the south of Spain for Easter, so that's about a month's time, 3 weeks' time, I think. Less than 3 weeks. It's actually very soon, the retreat in Easter. Yes. So we just will start with some silence. Good evening. So the talk was enjoyment. That's the name of the talk. So basically what I meant by that is the goal of the talk is to enjoy the talk or not. Actually, it was just that I was running late and I had to think of a title quickly. So that's what came out, enjoyment with an apple. So I have to completely make up now what I'm going to talk about. So who we truly are isn't a name, isn't an idea, isn't a thought, isn't a feeling. It isn't anything that you can imagine. It's not a thing, but yet it's everything. Someone's asking me to move to the middle of the screen. There you go. I was not in the middle of the screen because I wasn't. That's the way it is. My chair is delicately positioned. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So, who you are isn't anything. So you just call me Lisa, and there's a response from this body to that name. And you have an idea what Lisa is, that she's got brown eyes, white skin, blonde hair, big earrings, that she's a particular personality type, that she likes this thing or that thing. But Lisa isn't a thing, or the true self isn't a thing. The Lisa, the name of Lisa, of who you imagine, is simply what you imagine. Who you are right now is this no thing appearing as everything, is this life, this moment. So you think that you're speaking out of time, out of your personality structure, that there's a you inside your body called Dave or Alan or Richard or Karen or Melissa or Andrea or Asborn. But there isn't a continuous you. There is this moment, and in this moment, thoughts, feelings, ideas, and images arise, and they disappear in this moment, and in them contain a continual story of you. And there's this energetic, contraction, making it feel like this story of you is a continuous thing and somebody that's inside the body. So there's like holding on to that story of you. So your actual direct experience is always that life is arising from this moment. That life is free, here, and doesn't arise for someone or because of someone. It just appears. Everything's appearing. Every thought, every idea, every feeling is arising from here. The outside world, the light, the sounds, my voice, it's all appearing here. That's your direct experience, is that it's appearing here. But the person or this energy contracts and holds on to the story of you, onto this memory of you, and makes it feel like that person exists inside the body and that person is speaking from time. Like you're somebody that exists in time, you're somebody that's really real, and that you're moving in time, and that what you're saying now comes from you, and you were born on a certain date, and you own certain things, you are certain things, you're a particular way, and it feels like I'm speaking to that you, but there's not actually a me speaking to you. There is this moment with thoughts, feelings, energy, sights, smells arising, and they don't actually belong to anyone. They belong to this undefinable experience that's now. It's free and limitless. It's not bound. The thoughts and the feelings come up with ideas of being bound. So I am a good person, I'm a right person, I'm a wrong person. But actually, they don't come from a place of being bound. So your essence isn't bound, your essence isn't limited, your essence is mystery and unlimited, unknowable, but yet it is. This is love to me. This no thing appearing as everything. If you want, you can call it consciousness or the I am, but as long as you defined consciousness and the I am as not a thing and everything, not something that can be seen, experienced, known. It's this experiencing, but nothing experiencing. And the experiencing isn't separate from that which is its experiences. So a lot of teachers teach as if consciousness is back here and consciousness is aware of objects or knows objects. But actually the consciousness is the objects. Consciousness is the appearance of everything. And it's not located in any place. It can't be found anywhere. It is the appearance of things. You know things by their appearance. And consciousness isn't behind. It isn't inside the body. When you deeply reside in this moment, not even you, when there's deep residing in this moment, it's known that consciousness doesn't start or stop anywhere. It is the appearance of everything. Everything is conscious. And that consciousness is not a thing. And it's the same with the sense of I am. So some teachers have all these breakdowns, and I am is the first manifestation after the body manifests. But actually when you deeply go, or when there's a deep falling into the I am, that sense of being, that sense of existence, isn't separate from all things and is all things and is always here. This sense that this is. And there is nothing that's aware of the I am, there's nothing that's conscious of the I am. There is simply this sense of existence that cannot be found, that cannot be contained, and can't actually be seen. It can only be seen when your mind is breaking down and in separation, and your mind is thinking about it. So as humans, where we get tied up and where we lose the plot and begin to suffer is we believe that our thoughts are true. And I think it is thinking which has created separation, but that thinking's become an energetical experience. So you've become an energetical experience. So it was as soon as we began to think that we began to have this experience that I'm a subject and you're an object, that I'm somebody speaking to you. Whereas before we were speaking, we didn't have this sense of I'm someone in here, you're over there. Like, how would we have known it? There was just everything. There was life happening. So for the animals, it's everything. It's non-boundedness. But then this thinking starts, and then this energy, like when you keep telling yourself something, it becomes a reality. Like, I'm in here. I am a name. I am a body. I am an idea. And then this energetic expression manifests in the body, making it feel like this body is solid, like there's actually something in here experiencing, where there's nothing in here experiencing. Life is experiencing itself. It's having an apparent human experience, but it's actually experiencing itself. So there is nothing experiencing all of this. It simply is. It is. But humans believe that they are a name, that they are a limitation. And then their outside world begins to match up with that. So they begin to believe they're a subject, and then they begin to believe they're in relationship to things and to people. And then they begin to experience a world dependent on what they think and what they believe. Like thoughts have an incredibly powerful reality to them. Like if you keep thinking that people are out to get you, then that's what you'll begin to experience. If you keep thinking that the world is a bad place, then that's what you'll experience. If you keep thinking that nobody loves you, then that's what you'll experience. So it's that this is where karma comes in, or what we call law of attraction in the West, where you begin to experience what you think. The body moves towards that which it believes and that which it thinks. But that's nobody doing it. It's nobody having an experience. It's nobody's experience. And thoughts and feelings are deeply connected. So if you start thinking that there's badness out there and it's going to get you, then you'll begin to feel it in your feeling body. And then there's this ownership of it. And this is freedom. This isn't something for you. What's being talked about here, the reality of life, isn't something that belongs to you. That's strange, eh? Because when I'm speaking about it, the mind interprets it intellectually and then begins to put it to you. If a personality structure tries to condition itself on non-duality, more than likely the personality structure will become depressed. So if you start telling yourself life is meaningless and pointless, which is true on the absolute level, the human will get depressed, because on the conditioning level, life needs to have meaning and purpose. That's part of being human. And this is a very fine line of talking about non-duality, because non-duality is pointing to beyond the human. It's pointing to the absolute reality. It's pointing to that which is actually experiencing, so that which is hearing these words. But when you're identified with the person, there's this belief that the person is hearing this. So then the person begins to try and use non-duality to have a better psychological and emotional experience. But non-duality is pointing to that which is beyond the person. So the person trying to be nobody is a dangerous thing. Like meeting nobody people is a dangerous thing. And this is how cult leaders will abuse you, and how people in non-duality will abuse you, because they will convince you that they're a nobody. And because they're a nobody, they're always speaking God's word. And because they're always speaking God's word, they're always right. So everything that comes out of their mouth is God, or is consciousness, or is the absolute. So they're always right and you're wrong. And that's not true. That to me is not true. Maybe it's some people's feeling of what's true, but to me, that is very dangerous when you begin to see it like that. So on the ultimate level, this is the absolute, experiencing, speaking, doing everything. So in this, the absolute is that the absolute is speaking the character, but the character is always bound to the realms of the character. So whatever the character says is obviously, on the ultimate level, the word of the divine. And when there's a disattachment from that character, there is a shift in the character. There is a change in the character that happens. There's two things that happen. There's an expansion back to who you are, so it turns around from being a limitation to not being limited. So the experience no longer feels limited, it feels endless. But that endlessness, who you truly are, is speaking through a character form, and that character form is limited to its particular conditions, and the character never becomes unconditioned. The character will always be updating its conditioning and its genetics, and it will be behaving through its particular conditioning and its genetics. Even though there's nothing that's claiming that anymore, there's nothing that's identified with that, the character will still work through its conditions, and the conditions of the character can always grow and improve. So it can always become nicer, kinder, more balanced, more expansive, more integrated. Somebody that's telling you that they are no longer a character and they are only free consciousness that's speaking through them, and that everything they say is the divine, is, to me, in my words, more than likely trying to use that as abuse of power over people. Because I don't know why somebody would say that unless it was to try and convince the other that they know more than the other and that they're going to lead the way and that you've got to follow them. It can be a mistake. So in the past, I've most probably mistakenly said it because it's very hard to speak about. But I never really said it to get people to follow me. It's more of a mistake. In the beginning, it was very hard for me to try to communicate what happened. So, like, I would maybe imply in some way I don't think I ever implied there was no conditioning left, but I can't remember exactly. But it is, like, right now there is nobody speaking, but it is speaking through a character. So this is Lisa's, you could even say this is Lisa's point of view. So what I'm saying isn't absolutely right. It's the apparent point of view of the Lisa character. It's the up-to-date conditioning and understanding and recognition that goes through this body-mind system. And it always has to be like that. If it wasn't like that, then the master that was apparently nobody would suddenly be able to start speaking Japanese or it's impossible. The character is always going to be set up in that particular way. So if you took like one master that's claiming to be empty, even that claiming to be empty is a conditioned response of that particular personality structure, but it's coming from the absolute. There's nothing that's identified with that personality structure, but it's still coming through that personality structure. So maybe that personality structure is a man, and it particularly likes young women and chases, or doesn't chase, but makes love with the young women. If you think that is an act of nothing acting, man, you're going to get manipulated and fooled. You're going to get talked out of yourself and into doing mean things to other people. And I've had that happen to me, and I've fallen into these traps before. And I'm still most probably unconditioning my brain from that, having been with lots of different organizations. That's a conditioned instrument. That's an instrument that has attraction to one young woman. And yes, it's obviously acting out life's will. Like, that's what life is doing in that moment, but it comes through a conditioned body. And if that conditioned body was to like young men, it would go for young men. And if that conditioned body was to like animals, it would go for animals. And if it was to like old people, it would go for old people. But that's a conditioned bodily response. And it's most probably not that dissimilar before the awakening, if there was an awakening. And that. Like, so if a guru that you're following is sleeping with all the young women in the organization, that is not a non-conditioned body. That is a conditioned body. Wake up! Wake up! That is a manipulation from a human that's using it as an excuse to do what he wants. That's what he wants, or that's what she wants, is to do that. And there's nothing wrong with it on the absolute, but on the human level, it's good or bad dependent on how you see things, which is down to you. It's more important to go with what your feeling is, whether you feel it's good or bad. Not good or bad on the absolute level, but on the feeling body, like whether you feel attracted to that or not attracted to that. But if they start saying it's life's will, obviously on the absolute level, it's life's will that wants to sleep with that young woman. But on the bodily level, that human is attracted, otherwise the penis wouldn't get erected. There is a desire in that body. This is such a dangerous line for non-duality. And not just non-duality, this happens in Christianity, evangelicals, I'm sure it happens in Islam and Sufism, where there is a human with power. A human with power. A human with power. And actually, I don't think it's about having morals or not morals that are inflicted on humanity. So this is right or this isn't right. You should sleep with this person, you shouldn't sleep with this, or you should behave like that. I think that the more and more the human becomes balanced and open and vulnerable and honest, the more it can just intuitively feel what's right and wrong. It can intuitively feel that walking past somebody on the street that's fallen over and bleeding and need help is not correct, and to go back to that person. And it can intuitively feel when maybe somebody's acting injured as a way to con you. Like it can intuitively feel these sorts of things as the person becomes more balanced. I feel like on the human level, we're so hypnotized by thinking that we forget that our body has so much knowledge and information. Like our genes are made up of millions and millions of years of evolution, and our body knows deeply these things. It also might be not true for all humans. Maybe some people are less sensitive. So it's not so much an inflicted morality. It's more of like a natural morality. Like there's this intuitive feeling of what's expansive. And it doesn't always maybe look moral in the sense of like maybe there's like somebody really ill on the street, and intuitively there's a feeling that there shouldn't be an interaction, or maybe something's going to help them later, or there's another person, there's an intuitive feeling to help from an expansive place. So somebody's saying human nature can be so dark. Yeah. It can be really dark, and we've all traumatized each other, I think, through this. I get the sense that there's different types of humans. There is humans with empathy and compassion, and there's humans that are without empathy and compassion. And it's almost like they're two different species, maybe like Neanderthals. I always struggle with that word, Neanderthals. I can't say it. And humans. And unfortunately, I think that what's happened over the last couple of thousand years, maybe longer, is that we've been predominantly run and led by humans that have low empathy and low conscientiousness. And I think there's many reasons why that's happened. And I think that's also very hard to accept, that there's almost like these two different humans, and it's totally impersonal. But if you look at stories, so if you look at mythology, you'll begin to see that there's always this argument in humanity between good and bad. And like, and there's all these different stories of what goodness and badness is, and there's lots of different examples of it. But I get this sense that there's in those stories, there is this this pointing to these humans that don't have empathy and conscientiousness. And a true and a great leader is somebody that has compassion and struggles internally with some of the tough decisions that they have to make. So it actually hurts them, some of the tough decisions. So they're like like a true, in our stories, in mythology, the true hero always internally struggles with making tough decisions. Whereas the one without empathy and compassion, which predominantly leads our societies, make them easily and don't have that internal struggle. And that internal struggle is very good, because it means that that character is not dominated by them succeeding and them having power. It means that they're actually dominated by the benefit of all, of trying to make it fair and successful for all. The ones that don't have conscientiousness and empathy will solely be driven by power and getting what they want. What they want. And these like are two different personality types. And it's not that one is wrong or right, it's what's led us to this moment of evolution. But I just think it's really important to recognize, especially when you're talking about this subject, in the sense of this teaching, because I think a lot of teachers have tried to imply that they have these empty personalities that are only acting out God's word, and everything they do is right, superior, and better than the students. And I fundamentally disagree with this. And I think it's a perfect demonstration of somebody that is just trying to get power over people, other people. And I think it misleads students into believing that they one day will become a perfect superhuman, and that they have to submit to what other people or what their teacher or what the guru tells them they have to do for them, whether it be sexual, whether it be big amounts of money, whatever it be. On the ultimate level, though, there is no good and bad, and this is all one dance of one. But in the apparent dream of humans, if you're constantly following this superhuman that's always telling you you're going to be superhuman, you're going to be locked in this world of always trying to be perfect and to run away from your imperfections, and you'll be stuck in a loop of trying to be perfect. And never making it, always having to look up to this person that's more perfect than you. This is becoming truly who you are, which is imperfect, and it is embracing your imperfections. And as you embrace your imperfections on the human level, you will embrace others. And when there is a settling into what you are, as long as you're not somebody that's only focused on what they want and what they can get from the world, so somebody without empathy or compassion or conscientiousness, what will begin to happen is you'll begin to sink into this natural flow. So in becoming more yourself, you'll sink into this natural flow, which won't be greedy or selfish or only focused on your wants. Your heart will want to give to the group. Your heart will be in a place of giving and not taking. Then the people without empathy are always about taking and taking. Even in telling you that they have no humanness left and they are beyond being human, is taking from you. It's a form of taking, big time. It's greediness. They're sucking in your belief to make them to make them better and more powerful. Well, you believe in these characters without empathy, conscientiousness. You will always be ignoring your natural intuitive feelings and believing your mind, your thinking mind over others, because you know it's not true deep down in your being, but you're too scared to stand alone. You're too scared to stand in yourself and say, I don't believe you, I don't trust you. So therefore you always seek for their approval, and in seeking for their approval, they always have the power over you. It's the same in relationships. To stand in what you know to be true, which is your own being on the human level, which is your own responses right here, not from a contracted place, not from a place of hatred, that's all the surface levels, but from a deep, expansive place. Like an honest place, not a place of trying to get power, of trying to get revenge, of trying to put other people down, of trying to be better than, but from this expansive place, you know what's true. It's deep. You know what wants to happen. You know which way to go. You know what you want and you don't want, but you're petrified of it because you're petrified of your own aloneness. And beyond that, so beyond the human level, so deeper than that, you are all one. You are totally alone. You're no thing appearing as everything, and that's home. That is home. The reason that why light for you, right? So I just can see all the chat coming up, and it's I can see why light's putting lots of comments. I can't see what they comment because it's too quick. But I saw somebody say, why do you do that? Because he's a perfect example of someone trying to seek for power over people. And he can't get power over me. So therefore there is a great agitation and annoyance inside of him. He tried to be nice in the beginning to get my attention, and it didn't work. But like nice, but with a power, like nice, but you have to listen to me because I know better than you. And then when I didn't listen to him, it started getting more and more negative, and now it's just abuseful. But if he had empathy or compassion, he would be able to see that, and he'd be able to reflect on the way he's behaving or speaking, and that he obviously doesn't need to listen if he doesn't like it, but more than likely the story he'll be telling himself is, I've got to save all these other people from her. She is dangerous. My comments will save people. So I let him comment because I always think it's good to just have all the comments out there so that there's no hiding of anything. So anyone that dislikes me, but I can tell you his passion is totally personal, and it's personal to him because he can't overpower me. And that's all that's important to him. And it is a him. I'm not victim to you. You're victim to yourself. It's going to be so painful for him to hear this. His rage towards me is going to get worse and worse, and he'll start commenting more. It will be like burning in his heart, like and in his neck, like he'll feel really enraged, and the comments will come even more, like how dare she, and he'll really believe he's right and that he's got to save other people from me. I know that passion. I'm the only one calling her out on it. I've got to save all you guys from her. She's so terrible. But I think it's really good for any speaker that they must allow negative comments. So I must allow all of this. Like people sometimes ask me to turn off chat, which I do if it gets like sexually abusive or very abusive. But I think it's really important that all perspectives are put across, so that people can make up their own mind and follow their own heart and their own feeling, and they're not talked into something. What becomes dangerous is when teachers segregate their students and try to get them into only one belief system, like you mustn't go to any other teachers, you mustn't hear any negative feedback. Negative feedback is vital. And then eventually you begin to see that nothing is true. Even everything that I've said tonight was the perspective of this particular body-mind, but coming through, like, from this particular body-mind, and this particular body-mind has a particular flavour to it. It doesn't mean it's right. And then ultimately, on the ultimate level, it's coming from nothing. Nothing. Like there's nobody here that's owning it, it's just coming out. It's just speaking out. And perceptions do always change. And it's seeing that who you are is beyond any perception, any thought, any story. That nothing is on the absolute level true. Your essence is always free. And then the character has ideas and thoughts, but none of that will lead you to freedom. None of that is what you're actually looking for. It's thoughts. This instrument thinks, evolves, it always evolves. Knowledge is infinite, it can endlessly evolve. Feelings are infinite, they can endlessly evolve. Everything can endlessly evolve. And none of it belongs to anyone. We're always like, this is my intelligence, this is my belief systems, and this limits you, this stops you growing. It's endless what you can possibly be. And it's like the more that you listen and put things in and look from different angles, the more that it can expand. But then you can only expand and really, really, truly grow when you know none of that is you. That anything is possible, anything. And there's nothing that you can get stuck on. Nothing that you can get stuck on. So I hope that that information can open up any ideas in your mind of limitation. And then energetically there can be a tuning in to something else, something that's infinite, that we all have, but it's forgotten, that your essence is infinite, that who you truly are is infinite. I shall now go to some questions. Hey Julio, nice to hear from you. Hi Camilla, lots of love to you. Hi Jason. Hi Lisa, can you say something about fear of relationships? I feel like part of me wants a partner in life, but another part is scared to get involved with anyone. I'm not sure if it's due to past failed relationships or fear of feeling trapped. I feel I'm too young, almost 40, to just avoid relationships altogether, but not sure how to overcome the fear. Thank you. Yeah. I think so. This is a human question, like how can you as a human have better relationships? On the ultimate level, there is no relationship. On the ultimate level, you can only love someone here. So two people can't love each other because they don't actually exist. So everything you see as your partner is only what you see in that moment. Your partner is actually endlessly changing and evolving. So your partner is always expanding on their ideas, their belief systems. It's not your partner doesn't have a solid person inside of them. They're whatever comes out of them in that moment, and that's such a celebration. And they're not somebody that's looking back at you. They're apparently somebody that's looking back at you, so you can say to them, why didn't you do the cleaning up today? Or, like, she's 46 years old. She loves dogs. You can say that, but that's not actually somebody looking out the eyes. Who's looking out of the eyes is this moment, and that's true love. You can only love someone here. In time, you love something that's endlessly changing. And that's what most people do. They have this contraction, this feeling of who they are, and that feeling always comes with a seeking energy, like a feeling of incomplete, a solidness, like this incompletion. Because solidness means limitation, and that's not your essence. So that's why it always feels incomplete and like it's seeking. And that seeking energy is always trying to get a feeling from your partner, trying to get something, an experience from your partner. And this is where hate begins. You go into conflict because you believe your partner can give you love, but love can only come from this moment. But that solidness feels uncomfortable and looks for love in the other person, and then it becomes like a lot of conflict because they can't give it to you and you can't give them love. So on the absolute level, you have to really see that there is no relationship, that who you are speaking to is yourself. Who's speaking is the same as who's looking, as who's hearing. So when you speak to them, you're not actually speaking to a solid entity, it's that infinite space that's listening. And when they speak, it's that infinite space that's speaking, and that's love. And that's the only place you can love someone. Emotions change. So if like they give you feelings of excitement and you enjoy that excitement, that's going to change into anger and annoyance another moment, and to sadness and to joy, pity. It's going to turn into all these things. But deeper than that, there is this love, this expandedness. And that's, so to me, to be in true relationship is to be in no relationship. So to truly love your partner is to be in no relationship. Now, gurus, Pabian gurus, will try and teach you that there is no relationship, therefore you can do all these things to each other and you don't have to do this and you don't have to do that. But then on the human level, there is an apparent relationship which can have contract, which can have rules. So on the human level, these two bodies need to get on. They need to have a similar outlook on life, obviously. They need to agree on certain things. And there needs to be fundamentally on the human level trust. I think this is huge when in relationship on the human level, that two bodies trust each other. It's the same with if you have an animal, like trusting your dog and your dog trusting you, or your child. So your ultimate love is this moment, is seeing beyond all of that. But then on the human level, trust is fundamental. Now, a lot of us are damaged by trust because we've given our trust away. So you've got different types of people. You've got people that are only focused and fixated on what they want, and they don't have empathy and conscientiousness. And to them, trust is irrelevant. This is irrelevant to those types of people. I will talk about those types of people because they don't mean to be excluded or talked as the bad people. But these people do have big possibility to do lots of bad things. You've got to recognise if you're only fixated on what you want and you're not concerned about other people's feelings or conscientiousness, like what's good for the group. But we'll talk about those in a moment. So if you have more empathy and conscientiousness, then you might have lost trust in humans because you've put too much trust in somebody where trust is irrelevant. So often these two types of people meet up. People that only are focused on what they want, and then people that have lots of empathy and conscientiousness. And the reason that these people like these people is because these people are easily manipulated. So if you've got a lot of empathy, you're easily manipulated because you'll feel sorry for other people. So you'll feel sorry for this one that's only fixated on what they want. So so a lot of people do have trust issues in our society because if you do have empathy and sensitive, which a lot of people that listen to these talks I'm sure are, then you have been talked out of what you feel, what you intuitively feel. When you intuitively feel something's wrong, you're talked out of it. When you intuitively feel you should help someone, you're talked out of it. You watch people being unfair or cruel to each other, and it hurts your heart and you don't understand what trust is. It is possible to intuitively meet someone and know you can trust them. I never used to know that you could trust, like have that feeling. Like if somebody's high in empathy and conscientiousness, they're very trustworthy, and you can have a feeling and you can feel when they're trustworthy. But when you've been traumatized, then you're in high stories and blame, and maybe it's impossible, but deep down you can feel it. And it's really beautiful to meet somebody that is. But there's also people out there that you really can't trust, and that's not because of past traumas or anything. And the way you know if somebody's not trustworthy is you focus in and see if they have empathy, and then you focus on and see if they're only ever focused on what they want and what they can get out of the situation. And these people aren't trustworthy. These people will do anything to get what they want, anything. And these people aren't bad people, but if they can, which they most likely can't, but to recognise that this is the way they are, and to try to be as honest in that as they can. And through that honesty, they can begin to be bringing balance in that type of personality structure. But that's very difficult because it doesn't benefit them to be honest often. So if they're only focused on what they want, it doesn't benefit them to be honest. But being honest is the best thing that those personality structures could do for themselves. And those personality structures, in a way, have to be taught about themselves, to understand themselves. So trust to me is a fundamental on the human level for relationships. I never used to value that much, partly because of being with gurus and teachers and teachings that dismissed it too much. If you do have trust issues and you are afraid of these types of things, or you've got all these types of dynamics that go on in relationships, so jealousy or fear or trust issues or fear of being abandoned, you have to get to know yourself. You have to get to know these conditions and where they come from and see it. And honesty is the best cure. So being honest with yourself and then being honest with the other, and not trying to use your honesty in order to manipulate others to get what you want. You see that really truly what you want is no inside or outside world. And in order to not have an inside or outside world, you have to be 100% yourself, which is totally and utterly honest. Notice that I said not using your honesty to order to manipulate. So just going into deep down your truth. Often we're using our words and we're using what we think and feel to manipulate the other to get what we want, to get safety. And this is where seeking comes in, like working out what seeking is, like to get safety, to like just being honest sometimes is about getting safety or getting the other to be honest, getting security, getting power. And there's an honesty deeper than all of that, where there's just this authentic being like a child. And it still has desires, so it still might want to get on and to be loved and to have intimacy. But these feelings are expansive and they're not from a place of taking, they're from a place of giving. They're really genuine. I know it sounds confusing what I'm saying. I'm just trying to point to something really deep and beautiful here. But it might sound confusing, like you don't know how to do it. So let me step through it. So say like a relationship issue is that you might get annoyed with your partner. Oh, so say, let's take yours. So you're scared of being intimate with someone in case of being hurt. So scared of intimacy can often be somebody that never commits to anything. This is such a big avoidance of intimacy. If you never commit to anything, then you can't grow and expand together. You're always pulling away. So non-committal. So what might happen in a relationship as soon as the other person in some way asks you for some form of commitment to the future, so say going on holiday in 3 months' time together and booking a holiday, there is a big fear of that arises, and to you that fear is true, and maybe you feel like the other one's being too needy or something. Now what you'll feel is you'll feel the tightness in your body first of all, and then your thoughts will begin to repetitively think about it. So you know that that's a dishonesty, that there's something deeper than that. If you got to the absolute truth and the honesty of what you felt, then your mind wouldn't keep repeating about it. So that's not true. That's the fear of commitment arising. So then you have to go deeper. So what makes you afraid about committing in the future? You feel like your freedom will be taken away. So you feel like this person has the possibility to take away your freedom. So you feel that, like tightness in your throat and in your chest. Or maybe you feel like you'll be made small, or you'll feel powerless, or you'll feel stuck. So you just go deep into those feelings of feeling stuck. And notice when you've had this in other relationships or other dynamics. Look at your childhood and see what happened in your childhood. And then go deeper into that feeling of feeling stuck, that they're going to take something from you, they're going to make you small, that they're going to cage you, and that if you're caged, you haven't got the possibility for a different type of happiness, that you can't do what you want, that you'll never be able to do what you want. You see, all of these are past thoughts or ideas that you've identified with, and then they get stuck in your body. And when you begin to ask yourself, well, what is it that you actually want with that person? And then you begin to see what you want is like intimacy and love. But you're afraid they're going to cage you and keep you small. And they will cage you and keep you small if that's what you fear. That's what you attract to yourself. But deep down you want love and intimacy. And so you've got to try and look at that holiday, not through these neurotic thought patterns, but through what you actually want, and see if it actually fits. Like, I want love and intimacy. And begin to imagine how that holiday creates love and intimacy and closeness. Like at the moment, the mind just projects negatively and something's being taken away. And none of it's true ultimately. Like in the moment, there's nothing, there's absolute freedom, but you see that all these idea patterns come up, and on the surface level, it's dislike because they're trying to cage you. But deep down, what you want is to not feel stuck and not to feel caged. And they don't have the ability to do that to you. You only have the ability to do that to you. You only become caged through yourself. And if that's what you fear, that's what you'll attract to yourself, someone that cages you. So what is it you truly want from a relationship? I want someone to expand and grow with. And you let that positive vibration take over. I want someone to be intimate with. And then you think about booking the holiday. And then it will completely change your perspective on the holiday. What happens though when these things go unaddressed is that there will just be immense conflict. And then she'll begin to feel rejected, that you don't want to go on holiday with her. And then you'll feel like she's trapping you. And then you'll just get into all these conflict and these old patterns. It doesn't actually mean that you have to go on holiday, but say no to going on holiday with them from an expansive place, not from a contracted place. Like attracts like. So when you go there with fear of commitment and fear of being hurt, that's what you'll attract. So always say no from expansiveness. If you say no from the tightness, that's what you'll be bringing towards you. I want to cry out loud from happiness when I hear you speaking about the self. I work evenings at a hostel reception in Amsterdam, and I express my joy even if people see me here. Probably they think I'm nuts. Lots of love. Oh, nice, Bia. That's sweet. Hi, Amy. It seems that my mind keeps talking me out of my awakening. I know truth and have had so many openings in which all my questions fall away, but there's so many thoughts just afterwards that tell me it's a fantasy or just psychological trick. Will it ever settle down and let go? Lately I just feel discouraged and angry with myself for being so skeptical. I'm now 52 and have been questioning my own existence since I was a small child. Please help. Why can't my mind accept it? I find that listening to you brings me back to honesty and innocence. I always knew to be myself. Your voice speaks words that seem to come from myself, and I believe again in the possibility of a real and abiding shift. Yeah, it's so without words. It's right here. It's right here. And when I say all these complicated things, but don't worry if you don't get it, just jump onto the joy and the freedom that's here. These things can help or not help in the human world, but ultimately the true message is about going beyond that. Mauricio. Hello, Lisa. Let me ask you a question. There is a thought and then another thought that agrees with the first thought, and suddenly arises a fear. My question is, those thoughts just arising, or is it produced by something or someone? I'm asking it because to show up a thought, could it be different if the person falls away? This kind of thoughts will not show up again. Something like that. I don't really understand your question. Nothing really matters. This is all there is. There's thoughts that arise and then they don't, and then they arise. And basically the reason why we have issues with things is because we want reality to be different from what it is, but reality is what it is, right here, and that's where the freedom is. Here, in this, as this. There's nowhere you're ever going to get to but here. And your problems all come from trying to seek to get out of here, to get to something else. This is who you are. I love you, Lisa. Your message is astoundingly clear, strong, and most wonderful. Thank you. Most excellent communication from you. Hey, Isabel. Hi, Lisa. Good to hear from you. Hi, Flavio. Hey, Lisa. Happy you made it to YouTube in the middle of your conference tour. Oh, good on you for calling out potential false gurus claiming to be completely detached from their egos and using it as personal gain. Nothing but a power trip. Ooh, poor. Why the light? He must have it hard. Can't imagine what he's going through. I think it's incredibly strong and beautiful of you to allow all comments and point of views, no matter where they come from. This is amazing and how it should be, free of censorship. This is the way beyond misconceptions and through to truth and expansion of awareness. Yeah, totally. Like sometimes I do begin to ban it. Like if I get somebody that's really stalking me, then I have to be honest that I too switch it off for a period. Like really like aggressive and abusive. But I don't think he's being really aggressive and abusive. I think it's about sex. I think that's why the light or something. It's about sex and dominance. It's the same in dogs. Like when they can't control something, they tend to want to have sex with it. And then when they can't have sex with it, then they tend to fight with it. I think it's the same thing that's coming through, but he's not conscious of it. He really believes that I've done something to hurt him and to violate him. And he'll have done this throughout his life. They get obsessed. When he can't control something, he gets obsessed with that which he can't control. It's a very aggressive dynamic, but his isn't that bad, but it can form into a really aggressive dynamic. And he really believes that I've done something to hurt him. But that's got to be the fundamental belief. Whereas really what it is that he can't get what he wants from me. And therefore it's my fault. But he will not stop. There is absolutely no convincing him at all. And this is the same, so when I'm talking about him, I'm talking about other personalities that you know. There is no way of talking them out of it. They absolutely believe that you've done something to offend them. And like ultimately I am going to offend people to an extent, and I do think it's good that we all have these reflections back, like so that people criticize you and hold you accountable. And there are things that, you know, I'm not perfect, that I do that aren't correct, and I say things that aren't correct and can be corrected or can be said better. So like on that level, there's always something that I could potentially be held accountable for and said, this is wrong the way you've said that. And we don't know. We have to look at things each individually, and then eventually you could either change your mind or say something different or apologise. But on the ultimate level, there's neither is right or wrong. It's only from a human thinking perspective. So we can always find things that somebody does wrong that we believe has offended us or is hurting us or oppressing us. Sometimes they have validity in them and sometimes they don't. And on a personal level, you have to center yourself and distinguish when somebody is pointing out authentic criticism to you that you need to take seriously, and when people are trying to criticize you in order to get something they want. And for me, that's what he's doing. And that's the same for everyone. like distinguishing when the criticism is helpful or when the criticizer is trying to get what they want. And it's the same for you. Like when you're giving criticism, sometimes we all do it, like I do it. I criticize because I lose my temper and I want them to stop or I want them to change. But the best way in which to give someone feedback is obviously to do it from like a more indifferent place. Like obviously we all have gentle ones, so you might be giving the feedback in order to modify their behavior. But it's not like a really manipulative thing. That's what I suppose I'm trying to clarify. Like because you feel inadequate, or because you want to dominate, or because you want to be better than. So when you criticize someone, it's from a more expansive place, that you feel it'll be more harmonious, more better for them, that you'll get on better, that you can be more free in the relationship, that you can organize your life together better. So these more expansive perspectives is the way to criticize someone, and the way to receive criticism from other people, from that place. Whereas when someone's trying to get power or dominate or to take something from you, that's a very different energy. And when you can distinguish that, you will become more balanced in relationship with the other person, because you can distinguish when that person is trying to do it out of dominance. And then you can just say, take a break, or just not really listen to them. And when someone is actually trying to help or to expand the situation. Hi Lisa, and thank you. I was wondering if you could express your first moments, days after your awakening experience that I have heard you talk about. I think it was in Bali. Was your mind very quiet? Did others notice? I personally am like a roller coaster. Partly I feel because I'm 45 and there's lots of hormone conditioning in me. I feel like I drop, seeking, then not, etc. It's okay to have my karma. I would just love to hear what happened to you, those moments and days after awakening. Thank you and much love. For a period it went really silent and thinking was impossible. And then there was like this like bombardment of thinking, like what the hell just happened? Like trying to work something out. Like wasn't like any of the teachers said it would be. I really wasn't expecting what happened to happen. And there was like trying to like match it to some verbal or mental truth, which was impossible. So that then manifested for a period. And since then, so it's quite a long time ago, I find that things come up, like issues come up. Like this afternoon, an issue came up before the talk. And I just had to walk around ranting for 10 minutes. Like this energy came up into my throat like a ball. So things are very energetic for me now. And there just had to be like 10 minutes of speaking this energy out. Like, bah, 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 bah. I don't even know what I was saying. I just let my mouth run and just go for it. And then it passed. And I see all of these things as like old karmas, or all bodily sensations or family things that come from my parents, grandparents, and they're things working their way out through my body. And it's very energetical now for me. Like when there's an issue working its way out or happening, then one of my chakras hurts. And yeah. So I just would get to the perspective, Deanna, that it's never going to make sense, and it's going to happen the way it happens, and the seeking is going to stop when it stops or not, or karma is going to come up when they come up or not, and that's the way it's going to be. And just be as honest and truthful you can to each experience. Like rather than trying to be in some bullshit mind stuff, like come down deeply to what the body's saying and what's happening in the body and in the sensations. and the seeing and asking, what is it I truly want here? That's a very powerful question. What I truly want, and when I say truly want, is beyond seeking, like beyond that needing, grabbing, trying to get home in time, like just the bodily level, what the body wants. When I say what you truly want, I never mean that seeking energy, that's seeking to get freedom from an object, like seeking to get love from the partner, seeking to get fulfillment from people. You're never going to find home in what you want. So a true want is just a natural desire that arises in the body that's not trying to find wholeness in that. Wholeness it's the essence. And then the body has natural desires, natural movements, and that can be to feel loved and connected with other people, but not because you're looking to complete yourself in that action. Completion is always here, feelings and experiences come and go. Just so you know, so seeking is this agitated energy that's always looking for rest in the future, whereas a natural one is a gentle flow. It's a gentle expansiveness. And when it doesn't want something in your natural flow, it's like a gentle, like pain, it's like a gentle no. Hi, Anka Om. Hi, Lisa. Thank you for all that you are. There is a question I've always wanted to ask. Or better said, always wanted to answer from someone who have seen the illusion of this personal I. So if you feel to answer this question, I thank you. If you don't, I thank you. The question is related to the quote from the Bible. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. That is a great quote, Anka. How do you feel about this quote? What do you feel it means? Thank you. I think it's talking, Anka, about what I talked about earlier. That if somebody tries to convince you that they, on the human level, don't exist, is there to manipulate you big time. Like, why would they? Like, on the human, there's always going to be the appearance of human. And the appearance, the human, the character is an animal that moves towards it what it wants and moves away from what it doesn't want. And to convince you, for somebody to convince you that they have no wants or desires and that they don't exist and that everything is an act of God is like an ultimate manipulation tactic. Because they do, on the human level, have wants. And they do have human karmas. With a body comes karma. Always. There will never be a body without karma. So for somebody to say that they are God speaking, like obviously it is God speaking, so that is true, but to say that there is no character or personality structure there is a manipulation. It's like to try and convince you that they're a perfect person or a perfect representation of that stillness, that they are nobody, is very deceptive. It is the devil energy. It's very difficult though to talk about because in this moment this is nothing speaking. So there isn't a Lisa here speaking, there is nothing speaking, but it comes through this character of Lisa. And denying that character of Lisa, that colour of Lisa, is, if you deny that, that's where the abuse potentially comes. So Lisa has desires and wants. Somebody that says there is nobody says they have no desires and wants, but then they're like, but come and suck my dick. God's told me that I need to have sex with you. I mean, it's so, God tells me that I need to have sex with your child. It's God's word. Come on. I don't understand how people could be so stupid. Well, I was. I once got told by a guru that in order to get past my sexual issues, I had to have sex with them. And I got to a little bit of kissing and a little bit of foreplay before I was like... And on the ultimate level, if you see everything as a teaching, it was really profound. But that was total manipulation on their behalf. It would have been maybe more acceptable if they were a young, hunky guy, like I was like 22. But they weren't. They were in their 60s. And that happens all the time in this subject, all the time. People that are doing that are power hungry. They might have even had an awakening, but their personality is a predator on the human level. And a predator is one that doesn't have empathy and conscientiousness. And so they're the types that will say that to people. I can safely say that I've never said, I will have sex with you and it will bring you enlightenment or bring you free of your dynamics. I have, however, just to be honest and to be see-through, in the beginning when I first started teaching, and even there has been times where there has been sexuality with a student here, or with somebody that came to a talk or came to a retreat. I feel like I was the one hunted, but that's no justification for it. I see now that that wasn't appropriate, but I do feel like I was hunted. It's funny being a woman and being the other side, but it's no justification. I just didn't realize the effect that has. That, like how, like in the beginning when you first start speaking, you don't realize like how much power you hold, and with power comes responsibility, and you have to learn from that. Yeah. So I admit that humbly, and you can now decide whether you stay listening or not. But I just didn't, there's no excuse for it. Like, I don't mean to make excuses. Important that you address this topic. Feels like I'm angry at this why light for you, but that's something I have to accept maybe. Just had to cut out the chat. Yeah, you can cut out the chat. Yeah, he goes on and on. It's because we all know that in a way he's trying to be abusive to me on the human level. And maybe I have to cut chatting a bit if it gets really bad from him, because he's having an emotional reaction and he can't see it, but he thinks that he's trying to save all you guys from me. But I think that maybe we need to, it needs to be the other way round. Hi Lisa, woohoo! I'm getting to enjoy you live because I can't sleep. I'm in Australia. Thank you so much for all your beautiful sharing. Lots of love. Question. I have so much confusion around the paradox of God and perfection flowing through this body-mind, and yet this body-mind does and says things that are not always perceived as kind and loving, and yet what I'm saying is my truth in that moment. I then feel a lot of guilt and self-doubt after the moment has passed that I have hammered another. I'm always seeking to be kinder and harmless. The question is, how do I really learn to relax and trust this body-mind motives? That is what I feel, and does it true and not just harmful, conditional, tainted, controlling reactions? Yeah. I think this is something you're never going to know. And in a way, that's beautiful, because it means that you always have to keep a check on yourself. Like there's always going to be a looking, like a reflecting on your behavior, and I think that's a good thing, not just for you, but for everybody. But yeah, sometimes things can come out really harshly from me to people. And you just have to keep reflecting and reflecting. You know, so if I come out and I'm really harsh to someone, I'll say it all, because that's what's instructed, but then afterwards I'll reflect on that and see. It's so complex though, dynamics with people. It's really complex. It always keeps you looking, like to see what's happening. So the ultimate truth is to know who you are, which is this expansiveness. That's the ultimate truth. And that's always here in every moment, and everything you do is that. And the fact that your character has empathy to reflect on the way you behave is really beautiful, and that's great and courageous, and that's part of it as well. And don't ever believe there's going to be an end on the human level, that you're one day going to arrive and be perfect. This is always an opportunity to expand and to grow. So there is no end to it. And that's always going to be there, and that should always be there to question your behaviour. But also there should also be there a trust as well, a deep trust in the behaviour. Maybe that's missing. Like a deep trust that all of this is God's will. All of this is happening. It's a gentle dance between this and that, but you're never going to arrive on the thinking thought level. You're never going to get there and be like, this behaviour always means this. That always means that. It's never going to happen. You just don't know. Behaviour appears, and whether it's someone else's or yours, you're not going to know. You can just reflect on what you're experiencing in that moment. Whether it's theirs or yours or the skies or the trees. There's no end to this. You're never going to get to a place of certainty in thoughts and feelings. The only place of certainty that you ever have is this moment. Thank you for your response. There's a bit of a delay, but I'm here with you in and as this moment, and I'm so grateful I found you. You're the first non-dual teacher I've resonated with so strongly. Hey Amy, that's sweet. Henry. I don't know if I've got that much longer left on my phone. I'm doing it from my phone and it just said 20% battery left. So if I do suddenly disappear, I've run out of battery. Hey Lisa, I'm moving more and more into realizing that this is not happening to anybody. I can't even come up with a question, but I would love it if you could talk about how life moves when you're no longer motivated by avoiding things and trying to seek liberation. So when you're in seeking, there's always this belief and this energetic agitation that believes that happiness comes from pleasure, that freedom comes from pleasure, that when you arrive at the next pleasure, seeking will disappear, you'll be at home. So it might be that you believe that one day when you create enough money, you'll arrive, you'll make it. And there's always this agitation that you've got to do something, that you've got to move. And that to me is suffering, that agitation, this inability to deeply relax into this moment, for this moment to take over. So when there is this shift into this moment, you're still going to have habits and conditioning of this body. So it's like as this is sinking into who you truly are, like stuff's going to still change and process through this body, and you're going to react out of old seeking patterns. But there'll be a noticing of something called flow, that there's this natural flow to life. And the way it naturally moves is a movement towards pleasure and a movement away from pain. But you no longer believe that pleasure will be your salvation. Pleasure is simply pleasure, so it's gentle. It's like a natural want, and it's an expansiveness. Like when you're moving to what you want from that flow, it expands. And the pain is like, it's not contraction, but it's a painful feeling. It's like moving away from that which is painful. And you don't need to think that much about it. You can put thoughts in, but it's more of a naturally organic bodily feeling. Like your heart resonates, or there's just a natural expansiveness when you think about what you need to do. I don't know what any day of my life will be like. It's always a surprise, joyful, nowhere to go, nothing to get from anyone. I'm a little concerned about it. I think if you follow love, like you truly commit to love, then everything will work out. It's like, how can it not if you're following love? I think it's amazing how you open yourself up this way. It's so incredibly truthful. Bless you for seeing through unjust criticism that is meant to hurt and manipulate, and proper criticism. Your intuition is through the roof. Thanks, Thomas. Thank you, Lisa. Super beautiful. Sending you lots of love. I love you. Thanks, Anka. Thank you. Feels like self-doubt that comes, that I harm others in the last sticking pot, although I suppose it's necessary to have introspection until it isn't. So much love and gratitude. You know, it's really important to have it. People with empathy and conscientiousness are going to have these strong feelings. And there is a deeper trust that you can trust yourself, but having self-reflection is also good. But the thing is the biggest point to it is that you're never going to get to this point of finish where you're suddenly like, I can trust myself, because that's a thought that will come and go. I can't trust myself. I can't. It's endless. But I think I have to go now because it's the end of my battery life for my phone. I'm traveling at the moment, so it has to be on the phone with my beautiful background. Look, it's an illusion. It ends here. And then here, oh no, you can't really see it. Okay, forget that. You can't see the illusion. Okay, guys, I send you lots of love and I wish you everything. Yeah.